Good morning. I am Sandeep Kulkarni. Welcome you to this small video section today. Today's topic is tips for Novik sand preparation. आज हम बात करने जा रहे हैं नोबेक सैंड में का प्रिपरेशन किस तरह से किया जाता है उसके जो कुछ गाइडलाइंस कुछ टिप्स है तो वो आज मैं आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहता हूँ. सो लेट अस स्टार्ट दिस वीडियो. टिप्स फॉर नोबेक सैंड प्रिपरेशन. सबसे पहले बात तो ये होती है कि जब भी हम किसी भी सैंड प्रिपरेशन की बात करते हैं तो उसका जो इनपुट मटेरियल है उसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे. तो सबसे पहला इनपुट मटेरियल जो इसमें नोबेक में आता है वो है सैंड. मतलब सारे कि सैंड प्रिपरेशन में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट जो रॉ मटेरियल या इनपुट मटेरियल है वो है सैंड. तो उसकी क्वालिटी काफी अहम होती है. वो क्वालिटी अगर आप मेंटेन करोगे तो डेफिनेटली आपका जो सैंड प्रिपरेशन है वो हमेशा अच्छा रहेगा. लेकिन अगर आपकी सैंड की क्वालिटी अच्छी अच्छी नहीं होगी तो डेफिनेटली काफी हद तक उसके उस क्वालिटी का खराब क्वालिटी का जो इफेक्ट है वो आपके सैंड प्रिपरेशन में और जो रिजल्ट है उसके ऊपर भी होगा. तो बाय हुक और क्रुक आपको जो हाई क्वालिटी वेल ग्रेडेड सिलिका सैंड इस्तेमाल करनी है. ये बहुत अहम इनपुट और इनपुट मटेरियल है. तो यू हैव टू verify it. High quality well graded silica sand should be used for Novex sand preparation. Second one is the resin and hardener जो आपको डालना है. यू हैव टू स्टोर देम इन कंट्रोल टेम्परेचर कंडीशन. क्योंकि अगर आप उसे काफी गर्मी में या काफी ठंड हवा में अगर स्टोर करोगे तो उसकी विस्कोसिटी उसकी फ्लूइडिटी और उसके ओवरऑल जो पैरामीटर्स है उसके ऊपर उसका असर पड़ेगा. तो यू हैव टू कीप storing those resins and harness in a very controlled temperature और humidity में आपको उसको रखना है. सो दैट इज अनदर इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर. देन मोर इम्पोर्टेंट इज व्हेन आप जब भी ऐड करेंगे वो हार्डनर को और रेजिन को या कैटलिस्ट को सैंड के अंदर तो उससे जब आप मेजर करेंगे उसकी जो मोजमाप करेंगे तो वो जो उसको मेजर करने वाला जो आपका हथियार है उसको आपको काफी अच्छी तरीके से कैलिब्रेट करना है. रेगुलरली कैलिब्रेट करना है. क्या होता है कई बार आप जो मैजिक जार इस्तेमाल करते हैं उसके ऊपर काफी कई बार वो हार्डनर का लेयर जमा होता है एंड देन योर मेजरमेंट गेट फॉल्स. वो सही मेजरमेंट नहीं होती है बिकॉज ऑफ द एडिशनल लेयर ऑफ हार्डनर ऑन द मेजरिंग जार. तो वो जो परसेंटेज आप डालना चाहते हो उससे कम परसेंटेज ज्यादा आएगा या फिर बाद में उसको आप एडजस्ट करके डालेंगे तो वो ज्यादा भी जा सकता है. तो इट विल नॉट बी 100% श्योर शॉट के जो आप डालना चाहते हो उतना ही मटेरियल आपने डाला है. तो वन थिंग इज इट विल चेंज द रेशियो और उसके वजह से आपका जो सैंड प्रिपरेशन है उसमें वो सही नहीं होगा. उसके उसके प्रॉपर्टीज में फर्क पड़ेगा और साथ ही में योर कंजम्पशन गेट्स अफेक्टेड. तो वहां पर कॉस्ट इफेक्ट भी है. कंजम्पशन के वजह से आपको जो कॉस्ट इफेक्ट आएगा वो भी आपको ध्यान यहाँ पे ध्यान में रखना है. तो कैलिब्रेशन ऑफ सैंड मिक्सर एंड मिक्सिंग जार बोथ आर इम्पोर्टेंट. उसका कैलिब्रेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है बिकॉज मिक्सर का कैलिब्रेशन भी जरूरी है. जो आप सैंड डाल रहे हो वो बराबर उतनी ही डाल रही है. समझो आप 200 केजी मिक्सर के मिक्सिंग कर रहे हैं यू आर टेकिंग 200 केजी सैंड तो वो 200 केजी जा रही है या 180 जा रही है या 220 जा रही है. यू हैव टू वेरीफाई एंड वैलिडेट इट regularly and periodically so that your mixing will be proper, your mixing will be adequate, efficient, and then you will get better properties. So this is another important factor that you have to keep in your mind, that you have to calibrate the mixer as well as additive adding measuring jars or defined frequency or regularly as per your planning. So next one is mix and close to your point of view. That is very important in Novik, especially because the what we say bench life of the Novik sand is very less. Once you add the hardener, then it starts getting harder and harder. And if the distance between your mixer and the molding point is too much, then carrying that sand from mixer to that area and then again use it for molding, it will take a lot of time. And then what will happen, that sand will get jammed, sand will get hardened, and you will not get the desired molding properties in the mold. So it is very important that the sand mixer should be as close as possible to the mixing part to the molding point, so the you can able to reduce the transport time or traveling time or transit time, so that your mold will be very good quality mold. It will be prepared within your bench lifetime of the sand. Maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes max will be the bench life of Novik. Not that much longer. I will say it will 5 to 7 minutes will be the best possible bench life you can adopt. And before that, you have to make a mold, and because of that, the distance between your mixer and the molding station should be as close as possible. Monitor resin to hardness ratio strictly. This is also important when you are adding resin and then hardener. You have to monitor the ratio of that. Normally, it has happened that sand to resin ratio is defined, and then resin to hardener ratio is defined. So you have to monitor that ratio very strictly. I'm not giving specific uh, percentage here because it will depends on various factors like your APS of the sand, the weight of the sand, and again the temperature that ambient temperature, uh, the month or the what we say uh, the season you are making the mold, because in uh, you can say in the summer season it is very fast drying, whereas in the cold season it is not drying that faster, so you have to change the ratio accordingly to maintain that better efficiency of your sand or of the molding, because of that, because of the season, because of the ambient temperature. So I'm not giving specific ratios here, but you have to maintain and monitor that ratio as per your guideline, as per your plan, as per your control plan, and you have to stick to that as well. So ensure thorough mixing of for uniform binding. This is also important that you have to mix it properly. Timing of mixing is also important. Like green sand, we are doing dry mixing and wet mixing. Here also you have to add for resin. First you have to mix resin thoroughly, and then you have to add hardener. Because once you add the hardener, uh, the hardening process of the sand, the curing process of the sand starts immediately. So you have to mix resin properly with the sand, and then you have to add the hardener, and just you can say 30 seconds or 1 minute max you have to rotate that sand, and then it will be get discharged and you will be using it for the molding. So that mixing cycle you have to follow. You have to define your own mixing cycle based on the volume you are mixing, the percentage of resin and hardener you are using, because it depends also on your the APS number of the sand you are using, the distance between this mixer and your molding station, and all these things will decide your mixing ratio as well. So next one is ensure mold boxes are clean. This is tips for molding process, and your mold box should be clean. There should not be a layer of previous sand on the inside the mold box, and it will not give you good hardness, good strength of the mold. So you have to clean that before molding, so to make the box leakage free and getting proper sand cord at the end of the mold. So control ambient temperature to ensure consistent curing. That is also important. Avoid over compaction, which may give cracks. So over compaction is not required in no bake. In Vincent, you have to give more driving, more jolting, more squeezing. But in no bake, as it is self hardening process, you doesn't need much of the rhyming or much of the force to be applied to the molding sand. So over compaction is not necessary here. You have to keep uh, adequate compaction of the sand to ensure that whatever mold is been prepared, it is been with a good quality, good hardness, and it will give you consistent dimension of the casting. So this is what is some of the tips for molding process. Adequate curing time before mold handling, because if you remove the mold earlier, it may get bulk it may get warped, it may stag a little bit, and it will give accurate dimension. So you have to wait for proper curing time. You have to give a proper curing time to the mold to get well established, and then only you can handle the mold for further processing like painting and closing and corsetting, etc. So this is how the molding process. Where adequate PPC for to chemical fumes and exothermic reaction like hand gloves is required. You may wear the mask as well. So these are two major things which need to be used during the Novec molding. Rubber hand gloves and the mask are the two important PPC you have to use. In core making, ensure core boxes are vented. Venting is done properly because when you're adding the sand, the old air from the core box has to be removed to get better adequate compaction and good mold good scratch hardness. So venting is required, then allow core to fully cure before removing from the box. And just like a molding, you have to give enough curing time for better dimension accuracy in of the core. Use suitable coating for smooth surface finish, as we normally use a coarser sand here, not finer one, and normally it is around 45 to 55. So the surface finish may be little bit a concern of worry of concern. So what you need to do, you have to apply certain coatings on the mold and core so that you can get a good surface finish at the end, because the mold represent the casting phase. So you have to be very careful about it, and you need to add certain coatings, apply certain coatings with a uh, adequate viscosity, adequate fluidity, and you can get a good surface finish of mold as well as of casting as well. General safety and quality tips ensure good ventilation in the working area because of chemical reaction and fumes, and you are using hardener and resin, so you have to be good ventilation is required in the molding and core making process areas. So regularly inspect the mixer blades and discharge tube. It may be a chance that it will get deposited with a uh, what you say cured sand or old sand. So you have to clean it so that the efficiency of your mixer will get improved, and there is no chance that whatever old sand is there, it get mixed up with the new sand, and it may hamper the surface finish and the quality of your mold. Train workers on handling the chemicals and emergency procedure. That is very important. You are handling a lot of chemicals here, so you have to train the workers for the safety factor of handling the chemicals, handling the molds, handling the mixer as well. So that is very important. Keep emergency procedure on the shop floor so that they can handle it properly if anything happens, anything wrong happens during your working time. So that is also important to maintain the safety and the proper discipline in the molding and for making area. Label all the containers clearly to store them safely. This is also important. Resin and hardener, you have to keep proper identification, proper labeling is required so that there will not be any uh, misuse of that, or any wrong chemical being used for molding or for making. So to avoid that, you have to keep that proper uh, identification, proper uh, labeling is required. Also, traceability is required because whatever batch you are using of resin and hardener, you have to maintain that traceability with the core so that if anything happens up in the casting, or anything happens during the machining of the casting, any defect happen or something like that, you can able to go back and cross check your traceability with respect to resin used, the hardener used, and you can analyze the things in a proper way. So that is also very important. You have to maintain that traceability as well. Maintain documentation for mixed parameters and testing results. So maintaining the documentation for mixed parameter and testing result is also important. Documentation means how much percentage resin and hardener use, what is the capacity of sand mixer you are utilizing, number of mixes, the consumption of resin and hardener, the curing time, number of molds made, number of molds broken, the paint viscosity, paint consumption. All these things you have to write down on certain reports, and you can then compare it with your standard. You can find out the trend, what you are following. You can find out the cost that you are incurring during this activity, and at the same time you can also able to get uh, a trend chart or trend what you are following during existing process. So this is what uh, means by the maintaining the documentation of all the parameters in Novec sand. So this is from my side. It's a very interesting topic and very much hopefully you have been understood it properly, and definitely will help you to make good quality of Novec sand, and more than these guidelines, these tips will definitely help you a lot. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you.